Hello everyone. My name is
Okay, I'm
Hongwei
here.
Guo and I come from Nankai University. It's a
Yes,
great
yeah,
honor
very good.
to be here to share my work, and my title is A Generalized Machine Learning Approach for Dissolved Oxygen Estimation at Multiple Spatial Temporal Scales using Remote Sensing. My supervisor is Professor Jinghui Huang. My report mainly contains three parts. The first is introduction, and the second is materials and methods, and the third is the results and the discussion. The first introduction. Dissolved oxygen is defined as the amount of free and non-compound oxygen dissolved in water. The DO concentration is determined by the source and consumption of DO and water solubility of oxygen. Almost all the aquatic organisms need dew to survive. Fish, crustaceans, plants, and phytoplankton require dew for respiration. Microbes use dew to decompose organic material. The amount of dew needed varies from creature to creature. When the dew demand is not satisfied, aquatic organisms would be killed by hypoxia, and hence dew can effectively indicate water pollution and water health. Remote sensing has been an important means of water quality monitoring, for it provides full coverage, periodic, and dynamic monitoring. Water quality monitoring by remote sensing is based on the fact that the water quality parameters impact on the remote sensing reflectance captured by the satellite sensors. However, since steel is a non-optically active parameter, research on the retrieval of DO by remote sensing is fairly limited. Data-driven machine learning is continuously applied in water quality retrieval by remote sensing. More and more robust algorithms improve the ability to capture the correlation between remote sensing reflectance and non-optically active parameters, which provides a substantial basis for the accurate retrieval. And the second part is the materials and methods. In order to generate time continuous satellite data and reduce the errors caused by different sensors, Landsat 5 and 7 TM and the 10 plus images from 1982 to 2019 were selected as the data source, and the dark spectrum fading algorithms integrated into Acolyte was employed for atmospheric correction. Mod 09 GA images from 2000 and 2019 were screened and downloaded from the Google Earth agent. The long-term deal and water temperature measurements of Lake Huron was acquired from the Environment and Climate Change Canada to ensure high quality of the in-situ and concurrent satellite data used to develop the models. Deal measurements were selected with a time interval between the field measurement and the satellite sensing being constrained to lower than 6 hours. The coefficient of variation was used to detect the spatial variability of matched pixels in each spectral band and the land surface temperature data. Uh, a total of 152 and 36 pairs were screened out from MODIS and Landsat data, respectively, for model calibration and validation. Deal measurements in Lake Simcoe, Lake Taihu, and Q Reservoir were also collected as independent datasets to further validate the model generalization. The three water bodies were chosen because they cover high, middle, and low latitudes of the northern hemisphere. We also constructed the correlations between the enemy deal and five climate factors, namely air temperature, sea level pressure, precipitation, radiation, and wind speed, to analyze the impact of different climate factors on the deal of Lake Huron. This data were collected from the ERA5 dataset, and this is a flowchart of this research, and the meeting contains three parts: model development and the model validation, and finally the results. One of the most concerned machine learning models, the support vector regressor, was chosen to fit the correlation between DO measurements and remote sensing reflectance, land surface temperature, and sampling coordinates. The reasons are mainly first, SVR has a strict mathematical derivation, and the SVR also has a relatively simple model structure and hence can be constructed using various computer languages. The third part is the results and the discussion. Using the datasets derived from Landsat and MODIS data, the SVR models were calibrated and validated respectively to ensure optimal performance of SVR. Uh, Four types of kernel function were used to train the model. SVR performed well on both Landsat and MODIS data, and the SVR with RBF kernel performed better than other kernels on both Landsat and MODIS data. The dual measurements of the three inland water bodies covering high, middle, and low latitudes were used as independent data sets to further validate the generalization of the developed models in the study. The overall accuracy remained good. We observed that the model performance decreased insignificantly in a range of 2 to 7 in Lake Taihu. According to the DO measurements of Lake Taihu and Lake Huron, the mean DO of Lake Taihu was in a range of 2 to 14, while the range of Lake Huron was 6 to 15. Obviously, lacking training data in a range of 2 to 6 led to the poor model performance. The monthly DO of Lake Huron estimated by Landsat and MODIS data was compared to further validate the estimation consistency of the two kinds of data. This figure shows the validation results except September. Here, the consistency of other months was good. The inconsistency in September was owing to the small number of available Landsat images in this month. The result demonstrated that the Landsat and MODIS data and the developed models could be used to estimate the DO of Lake Huron with acceptable accuracy. From 1984 to 2019, DO of Lake Huron showed a significant decreasing trend with a percentage of 6.56. The increase of air temperature and radiation was inferred to be the main factor inducing the DO decreasing trend. Take Canada as an example. The air temperature increased by 1.7 degree from 1948 to 2016. Although the increase of air temperature and the radiation increases DO entering water by affecting the photosynthesis of plants in a watershed and the phytoplankton, it decreases the water solubility of oxygen and increases the oxygen consumption by microbial decomposition. Using Landsat data from 1984 to 2019, the monthly spatial distribution of DO from March to November was mapped so that the intra-annual variability of DO in Lake Huron was reconstructed. In spring, DO decreased gradually from the offshore area to the center of the lake. In summer, DO further decreased in June and reached the lowest in July, then they gradually increased from August to the end of the autumn. In November, they increased to the highest. From August to November, we observed that the dew gradually increased in the whole lake instead of increasing from the center of the lake to the offshore. The dew in Saginaw Bay here The DO in the Saginaw Bay was significantly lower than that of other sections in the same month, with the lowest in July and highest in April. So air temperature and radiation affect all three determinants of the concentration in water. The negative correlations indicated that they did not promote oxygen to enter Lake Huron. Instead, we infer that with the increase of air temperature and radiation, the water solubility of oxygen decreased and the consumption of oxygen increased. However, except for Saginaw Bay, the water quality in most areas of Lake Huron was good, and there were few large-scale algae blooms. In addition, the relatively low air temperature, low salinity, and high sea level pressure created favorable conditions for Lake Huron to contain more oxygen. It was hence difficult for Lake Huron to drop sharply due to the algae blooms. Therefore, we infer that the air temperature and the radiation mainly affected the water solubility of oxygen through the water temperature. Uh, Precipitation affected the photosynthesis of plants around. Meanwhile, the surface runoff caused by precipitation brought abundant oxygen and nutrients for photosynthesis in water. Therefore, precipitation indirectly or directly affected the total amount of dew entering water. Although sea level pressure and the wind speed were inferred to affect the total amount of oxygen entering water and water solubility of oxygen, the correlations between the wind speed and the sea level pressure and annual mean dew of Lake Huron were low. The main reason was that the sea level pressure and the water speed and wind speed of Lake Huron fluctuated in very small ranges. Here we can see they fluctuated they fluctuated in very small ranges, and such narrow fluctuations had relatively limited impact on DO. Overall, the air temperature, radiation, and precipitation were the main climate factors affecting annual mean DO of Lake Huron because they significantly affected the total amount of oxygen entering water and water solubility of oxygen. That is all of my report. Thank you very much. And is there any question?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Guo, for a good study. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, Professor Pai, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I just?
Yeah, Professor Dai. Yeah, I'm glad you're back now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just finished my class.
Yeah.
Yeah. A very good question. A very good presentation. I have a question because all your studies is just on yearly scale. Have you started on daily scale or event scale for us? Because I'm more interested in precipitation, the impact of the precipitation on DO. So have you studied on more high temper resolution?
我不好意思，我可以用中文吗？就是
Okay.
老师是这样的，就是那个我们做的是那个就是年尺度的，还有月尺度的。
Yeah.
对，然后日尺度的话就是更高尺度的，
日
因为那个遥感影像它没有，然后我们也没有用到那个。对。 对的。
所以有一场大雨的话，影响没考虑是吧？比如说一场戴江说的是一场大的降雨呀，那就是说可能影响很大呀。
对，就是一场大雨过后，
Yeah,
对吧？
yes, we didn't consider it because we don't have have higher temporal resolution images. Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you show the dissolved oxygen for Taihu? Yeah, I just want to see how. Usually we see Taihu got very bad water quality. Yeah, I don't know how bad it is. So can you show the Taihu dissolved oxygen range? Is that really bad?
So I'm not on this slide. Can you see?
Yeah. So compared with the American lakes, so Taihu dissolved oxygen.
Yes, this figure is for Taihu, and the DO is about 2 to 16, and the minimum is about 2.
So is that usually in the summer? Yeah. So that's the lowest one.
Yeah,
cause a lot of problems.
Yes.
Yeah, probably a lot of fish couldn't survive with such a low dissolved oxygen.
Yeah.
So have you considered using other satellites? Yeah, MODIS and the Landsat. Now there's super spectral satellites.
We actually this study uses the MODIS, and because we want to see the monthly DO variability, so we use the MODIS. But for example, the GOCI, its temporal resolution is about 2 hours. So we didn't use it, and now we mainly use Landsat and Sentinel and MODIS.
Okay. Any other questions? We have 5 minutes left. Yeah, if you got a question for other speakers. Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah.
Another question. Have you just considered to combine, because your topic is use multiple satellite data? Have you think about to combine MODIS and Landsat data to get a more because you say your temporal resolution is quite low. Have you think about to use multiple satellite data?
This study not used, but our new study, we tried to use how many years the Sentinel and the Landsat. And Landsat is about the repeat cycle is about 16 days, and the Sentinel is about 5 days. So NASA produced how many years the data set, and the repeat cycle can be reduced to about 3 days. And our new studies, we consider to use the new data set.
Thank you.
Yeah, one issue is for cities. Yeah, you know, the rivers and the lakes in the urban environment, they tend to be small. Yeah, so the spatial resolution is an issue. It's
Spatial resolution is another issue, and Sentinel-2 is about 10 meter, and the Landsat is about 30 meter. And I think for rivers, it would be better using UAV.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know in China, in the UK, there's so many restrictions. Yeah, to use UAV in cities. So it's not easy to fly UAV in cities. I don't know, in China, is
Yes.
that you have more freedom to fly UAV over cities?
No, I don't think so. We also have this problem. Most areas in cities are restricted.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah, so it's
that is a very big challenge.
yeah, because I know there's a university, Sheffield, they got a research grant to use UAV, yeah, to do a city study, but they got money, they got a project, but they're not allowed to fly UAV over the city. Yeah, so then they got a big headache. Yeah, you got the money, you got a project, but you can't do the project.
Yes.
Yeah, seems it's a common problem in the UK and in China.
Yes.
Good.